being here and not anywhere else. So I'm Gabriele Iannotta, I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Politecnico di Milano, and today I'll be presenting this very working paper, which is a joint work with Tommaso De Sisti, who is here, and Caterina Ertinger from University of Mainz. And it's called No Train, No Gain, Experimental Economics Meets Financial Education. So as you said previously, I think we can all agree here on the importance of financial literacy, and I claim we can also like agree on what's the ultimate goal of financial education, which is like to improve financial behaviors, specifically financial decision making, and this is especially true among youths. Why? As one of the keynote speakers said this morning, it's hard to catch up later in time if you do not like start with the basics and then have time like to absorb the concepts and learn and eventually like be able to improve your decision-making skills. What happens in the literature is that the traditional financial education interventions often focus on theoretical knowledge. And this is something that actually is important, but knowledge doesn't necessarily transform into competence. And so like be able like to use what you know or put it in practice. And this is like, as Ambuel et al. Said, is because, for example, financial principles could be misunderstood or applied incorrectly. So, since we want to like focus on youths, when we think about young students, for example, we have two ingredients which are like very specific. The first one is low budget. So students have usually low budget. And the other one is that they have like a high knowledge of ICT related like tools, instruments, and knowledge as a whole. So what we want to do here is, if we consider trading apps, for example, there is a quote, deadly unquote, combination between like low stakes, gamified accessibility of trading apps with young users' financial inexperience. And this can be very harmful. So what? We know that financial education should link knowledge to action. And this is something that we all know, and the point is, how can we do it? So the literature says that one of the possibilities is to incorporate principles from behavioral economics, for example, and active learning, so the edutainment, for example, and see how and see like the benefits of having these new tools, new ways of teaching, and also like understanding like concepts. So what do we do here? We want to use an incentivized online game. So we basically, look at the experimental economics and use an incentivized online game with, that mimics trading app features and integrates financial education. So we want to, like, as the title says, like to be in the position of merging these two I would say like subjects. And so what are the goals? The first goal is very ambitious, but it's like to bridge the gap between financial knowledge and competence, which is what literature says and which is always like a big struggle. And the other one is to improve portfolio management by recognizing suboptimal behaviors, which are also known as trading biases. So all those dangers and problems that actually emerge, especially if you are like inexperienced users. Okay, let's jump into the methodology. So we run an RCT with 485 bachelor students at the Politecnico di Milano, with 3 groups. The usual control group, we had 180 students, with a pre-questionnaire and a post-questionnaire in November and then in December. And then we had 2 treatment groups. The first one with 153 students, they had the pre-questionnaire as well, and then they played this game, which is, I mean, it's a term that it's quite common in experimental economics literature, but I don't want to like convey the message that it's like actually playing a game, like it's more like a simulation, I would call it. And then a post-questionnaire. So a game where you will see in a moment all the features, and which mimics which mimics investment decisions and portfolio allocations and so on and so forth. And then we have a treatment group 2. We were 152 students. Again, a pre-questionnaire all together with the other 2 groups. And then, as you can see, a game plus pop-ups. What does it mean? So the treatment group 2 had actually access to these pop-ups that like they appeared while they were playing, while they were like actually allocating their money among the different options that they had, with information on trading biases. So overtrading, disposition effect, the herd behaviors, diversification, and others. So there were like 5 pop-ups just appearing, and they were forced to see them because I had like so everything was programmed by me in O3, which is like a platform that actually allows you like to design the experiment, run it both online or like in person. And so I was actually able to force them to read those pop-ups as there was like a timer of 20 seconds, 30 seconds, so that they were actually able to see. Of course, they could like turn their head or like close their eyes, of course. So we don't know exactly if they actually read them, but the idea of like forcing them to do it was there. So the 2 research questions. The first one is, does participating in the game improve financial knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors? Which is like the first research question that we have in every financial education intervention. And the second one is, do real-time pop-ups improve financial decision-making compared to basic financial information? Because what I didn't say is that both treatments had some basic financial information on a paper. They could actually read it. And what I call the financial bills. There were actually 2 pages of information about risk and volatility, about risk and return, about inflation, about interest rate. So this is like the design of our intervention, and then what I just wanted to highlight is that the research question number 1 is actually comes from the comparison between the control group and the 2 treatment groups, whereas the other one, the second research question, is something about the comparison between the 2 treatment groups themselves. Okay, so which are the financial competence dimensions? The first one, the financial knowledge. So we want to cover like the understanding of basic financial concepts such as risk, return, and financial instruments. We had 14 multiple choice questions. I wrote like 9 plus 5 because 9 questions were on like basic financial concepts, and 5 questions were on the pop-ups, so on the trading biases. Then we have financial aptitudes. So we want to assess participants' risk tolerance and their perception of financial risk, and this comes from the Likert scale questions on risk aversion that are quite commonly used, coming from Domen et al. 2011, about how much is your like risk aversion from 1 to 10. And then financial behaviors. What do we mean with financial behaviors? First of all, we have 2 different financial behaviors. The self-reported one, so the intentions to diversify, which actually self-reported in the questionnaire, and they had to choose how to allocate their money choosing among 5 different options. They were exactly the same options they had during the game, but they had like just to declare it. And then we have the real, what we call real or actual financial behaviors, which are the in-game portfolio allocation. So like throughout the 20 rounds of this game, and you will see in a moment all the features of this game, they had like to allocate their budget among the different options. So the experimental game, as I said, is an online experimental game, fully programmed in O3. The initial endowment was 300 points, which is €3. So all the participants were incentivized in the sense that they have an incentive to fill the questionnaires, and they were paid for it. And then they have an incentive to play the game or play the simulation. Since starting from €3, they had the chance like to also like increase their budget. So we have 20 rounds, 5 investment options. I will try that to be as fast as possible because I only have 5 minutes. But anyways, these were the 4 assets with different risk and return characteristics. They just had information about like a descriptive information. They didn't know about the real distribution or the real volatility of these assets. Otherwise, they could have been able like to to compute the optimal solutions, I would say, because there is no one optimal solution. And then, as I said, instructions on the game plus these financial pills, as I call them, and then historical returns of each asset. So they had, as you'll see here, this is the game. So they had access to the historical returns of the assets. So we had like access to 15 rounds previous to, before like the first round that they had to play. They had the chance like to allocate the budget among the different options, and then you can see like the dynamic of the investment, and you can track everything during the game round by round. And this is not only an educational instrument, but also a platform to observe and assess actual behaviors. So it actually has this, I would say, double objective, which is like to learn, but also like have an instrument, also have like a variable to explore what I call the real behaviors. So this is the strictest statistics of the 3 groups. I just like to go very quickly on that, but they're very well balanced, the 3 groups, especially regarding like the pretest scores and the aptitudes, as you'll see from the p-values. And as you can see, we have 2 scores, one with biases and one without biases. So in order like to, because what we're interested in the analysis, of course, is the score without the biases. And then we have the treatment effect. So what we see here is that actually the interventions work. So, and they work like in an increasing way. So we have the treatment 1, which is the one which we have only the game itself with some basic concepts, financial concepts, which is effective. And then we have the other treatment, the one with the pop-ups, which is even more effective. Here are the effect size-wise. We have these 2 effect sizes in standard deviation. And then this is like the difference if we take into account just the T1 and T2 students. If you want to see if there are differences between the 2 groups as we observed here. Here we have a more like a focus on the treatment 1 and treatment 2, and of course I control for different variables also, like the in-game return, the in-game volatility. I have these 2 possibilities, one from the pre-questionnaire and one from the in-game return and volatility, which are simply like the average of all the returns and volatilities that actually come from their portfolio allocations in the 20 rounds. And then we have, what about the behaviors? So what we see is that like self-reported standard, what I mean with SR. So what is the instrument that we use, the variable that we use to evaluate these behaviors? Is the Sharpe ratio, which is an indicator, which is simply the ratio between risk and volatility, risk and return. And we use it as an indicator which is commonly used of the goodness of the portfolio. So the higher the better, and here we have that both treatment 1 and treatment 2 are actually able to increase the self-reported Sharpe ratio. And the same is if we take into consideration, take into account just the T1 and T2 students, and we focus on real Sharpe ratio, we see that the effect is there as well. So we have that if you're able to read these pop-ups, and you can actually leverage on this knowledge and also improve your ability to allocate your budget among the different options that you have. Yes. Okay, conclusion. The experimental games at this stage improves both financial knowledge and behaviors. Here we have some of the coefficient with respect to the financial knowledge and the financial behaviors. And then we have that the real-time feedback, that is the pop-ups, is even more effective in boosting the theory and the practice, both of them. Of course, there is a lot of work to do. We need to match experimental data with demographic and academic data we have recently acquired from the students. We have to explore the role of risk preferences. We have this variable, we have this, we have the possibility to check for it. And then to investigate other outcomes of interest, for example, risk aversion itself, how it changes, and the role of log data, because we have access, I have access since it's that's why I asked the question, because it's I have the chance to read at what time they started the game, at what time they finished, and the same for the questionnaires. And so to see whether it changes. And then evaluate, of course, long-term effects, and I have a question for you, Alessia, later on. And then the cost-effectiveness analysis, which is important, which is an underexplored topic in this literature, and I think it really worth the time to invest. And so should these results be confirmed, the game could be included, what we are thinking of, in a comprehensive platform, which we can have a dynamic and iterative space to refine financial decision-making skills before engaging in real investments. So you have the chance not only to practice, but practice with understanding and learning something on what's going on. It's just like we leave it there, you use it, and then you'll see. And so, last but not least, the game could be an innovative, scalable, and effective financial education tool. And I think that's it. So the references. Thank you.